Hi friends, welcome back to the IRL with Lex podcast. I'm your host Lex, and this is the place where we talk about all things fitness, health, and lifestyle with a real and raw perspective. The question of the day is from Tania, and it says, Burnout from hustle culture, how to deal with feeling bad for being unproductive but feeling really burnout. And honestly, I completely understand this, and it is something I have struggled with pretty much my entire life. Being a creative in a society of fast creation, people tend to no longer value quality over quantity because at a certain point on the graph, it is better than quality if you are producing enough. And you may not be a creative, you may just be meaning in day-to-day life, but I would ask if you have set up boundaries. Because if you have no boundaries, your life is running you, you are not running it. And the unpredictable situations of life will for sure exhaust you if you don't set up the proper lines that ensure you feel safe, heard, rested, and respected. Because no matter how much or how little you are doing, if you don't feel like you have those four things, it can feel as though you are out of control. And I really do think that's where most of my burnout come from. It is just me kind of feeling lost and unsure, so I blame it partially on overconsumption and the lack of inspiration and how tired I am. But the good thing about burnout is that you aren't going to die if you take a break. One of the worst inventions I believe to be made was the assembly line, no thank you, and not because it doesn't work. That's the bad thing. It's because it does work. But because it took the life out of a job to make it as quick and efficient as possible. And since the Industrial Revolution, the assembly line has indeed spread to society's daily lives. And we are expected to live our lives in an assembly line manner, doing everything as efficiently and optimally as possible. Some of us may want to experience life. And when you are doing life efficiently, it's hard to live life experiencing. So in my opinion, the cure to burnout isn't to write down why you're feeling that way or to go on a retreat or to do a dopamine detox. It's to realize that the cure to burnout isn't to write down why you're feeling that way or to go on a retreat or to do a dopamine detox. It's to realize that life isn't a constant race to run as efficiently as possible. So look at the road while you run. Look at the people around you. Look at the clouds. Stop for some water. Say hi to your friend on the sideline. You may be a few spots behind whenever you finish the race, but won't you be happier than if you ran as fast as you could? Can't breathe at the finish line, you're throwing up. The only thing you got was a medal, but also you don't have anyone to share that success with. And I also know that it can be like, well, yeah, duh, Alexis, you aren't telling me anything new. How do I become okay with doing less? What if people forget about me or start leaving me out? Or what if I'm not as successful as I could be? And honey, let me tell you something. I don't care if you believe in God or the universe, whichever or whatever you believe in, this will apply. Whatever is for you will happen and will always happen despite your actions. If you are meant to be doing something, I truly believe in the end you will be doing that thing, which has allowed me, honestly, to relieve a lot of my anxiety because I realized that no amount of worrying about my platforms or OMG, I didn't post today. Will everyone forget me or forget about me? And what if this doesn't do well? What if the internet doesn't like me anymore? All of that anxiety literally for what? If I was not meant to have the platform, I wouldn't have one, point blank, period. I started posting on TikTok when it was Musically in 2014. So 10 years later is when it finally started to get a following. And I view that as the Lord knew when I was ready. Or if you don't believe that, the universe was receiving my energy and knew that I was ready to consistently produce content. And so why would I obsess over being worthy or not for the position I am in or chasing that out of fear of losing it instead of the passion of pursuing it? So don't let burnout take away something you love out of the fear of losing it. It's in your life for a reason, so don't lose it because you're afraid. And in addition to feeling behind in hustle culture, I have an entire episode about this and it's called Feeling Behind in Life Isn't Real. And I recommend that episode if you want to hear mainly about burnout and how to stop comparing yourself to the society of optimization. Burnout is something I could talk about forever on here. It's something, especially with depression, that can control my life despite me wanting it to or not. But create an environment that can refuel your energy and remind you why you do what you do in the first place. And if you ever want your question asked and answered, I believe that Spotify changed the way you ask things, but now you can comment on this podcast and I can see those weekly. But without further ado, let's get real. I get questions all the time. Probably one of my main questions is, will I ever lose the desire to be smaller, or being small enough and the desire to be thinner, to be societally thin, to just be Kate Moss, heroin chic thin? Honestly, I can't tell you if you'll ever lose that desire because I'm not you, so I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yes, honey, you're not gonna feel like that in a year from now. I'm 2 years recovered, and some days I still struggle. Because that's just how it is. That's life, okay? If I were to go in here and tell you that I was perfect and I didn't want to be Kate Moss thin sometimes, don't listen to my podcast if I ever say that, because I'm a liar. Of course, I want to be as thin as I once was. But I also remember how miserable I was. At what cost will that thinness, how much will that thin cost in your life? So why aren't you that thin now? And I want you to assess that, because you're obviously not that thin for a reason. That doesn't mean that you're any less than because you're not Kate Moss thin. I mean, if that's not your natural body type, that is not my natural body type. I am just, never have I ever been built that way, and I don't demonize my vessel for that. Your body is a vessel in which you experience life. It is no more than that. It's basically your vehicle. It does not define the worth of your vehicle. I'm sure that you have seen cars that have super doopy crappy exteriors, but when you look on the inside, you're like, dang, that's nice. And then you see vehicles that have amazing exteriors, but they run like a piece of crap. And that can be the same for humans. Just because you don't look societally how people think you should, that does not mean that you're a bad person, or that you aren't worthy, or that you're less than. It just means that you don't look like the way patriarchy and men want you to look for the male gaze. Boo-hoo. You really are gonna let your day be ruined that you don't look how men want you to look? Are you serious? Baddies don't have that mentality. Because if your whole life is a constant desire to be thinner, first of all, when I was thinner, I did not have the strength to defend myself. When I was thinner, I was afraid to go out in public because I knew that if something happened, I would not have the ability to protect myself. When I was thinner, my hair was falling out, my teeth were yellow because it was awful. My teeth were like the same color as my skin. My nails were always broken. I was growing hair all over my body called lanugo. And there are so many other things. For what? For what reason? At what cost will that thinness be in your life? And also, you're not going to be happy. You are not going to be happy. You're going to be more miserable than happy. Because at the end of the day, I want you to have better goals in your life than to be thin. Because being thin will not make you happy. If you hate yourself right now, if you lose weight, if you gain weight, whatever you do, if your body is the indicator of your happiness, you will never be happy constantly. Like, your happiness will always be dictated on how you feel about your body. And feelings are so fleeting and futile that your life is going to be a constant roller coaster of emotions, and you're never going to have a baseline of happiness, which I wouldn't wish upon anybody. But in addition to that, I get a lot of questions asking if body goals are toxic, or having like physique based goals, fitness goals and all that. And honestly, I don't believe that having body goals is toxic at all. Now, if it's something extremely unattainable and you're wanting to look like somebody you see online, I'm also recording this for YouTube, so I'll pop a picture of me up on the screen, and you can see that I look completely different in these two photos, because the photos I post on Instagram versus the photos of me day to day look completely different because of angles, clothing, how much you ate that day beforehand, etc. And you will never look like these people online, because not only is there a lot of stuff behind the scenes that they do to look better, but also that's their full-time job, honey. So I just want to make you very aware of that in advance. But it is okay to have body goals, because body goals are not what is disordered. What is disordered is the habits and the behaviors that you engage in to achieve those body goals. So let me just go. You want a six-pack, you want abs. That's a completely okay and healthy desire to have. However, whenever it becomes toxic is whenever you start engaging in disordered behaviors, obsessive behaviors, to get there out of desperation. So I naturally don't have a six pack. I just don't. That's not where basically my set point weight. I don't really like that term because I don't really like agree with everything around it. However, at a baseline, my body just does not gravitate towards that level of leanness, which is fine. I would have to be a little bit more strict with what I was eating, do more cardio in order to achieve a more, quote, shredded look. Am I willing to do that? Honestly, in my life right now, I'm not willing to do that, and I know that. So I'm not going to do anything obsessive to get those results out of desperation and out of a desire for a quick fix. So, what does it look like to not have a obsessed or desperate outlook on this, or how can you achieve a body goal without it becoming obsessive? Honestly, give yourself a lot of time to achieve that goal. I find that most people develop EDs or exercise addictions or issues with exercise and food whenever they give themselves a extremely short time slot to achieve something. Fitness is a lifelong pursuit. It's not an 8-month or an 8-week shred program. Throw away all of those that you have right now, because honestly, every time I ever did any of these 6-week shred, whatever, it always left me, first, burnout, and second, I always had a very disordered view of exercise and food after those, because they're like, eat 1,200 calories a day and make sure you're doing an hour of cardio every day and make sure you're drinking apple cider vinegar in the morning. That is my version of a Valley Girl accent. But you don't have to do that. You know the TikTok sound? It's like, you don't have to be the bad guy. That's this. Choose whatever timeline you want to reach this goal in, because I now am able to reach my goals, my fitness goals, in such a more lifelong aspect. I view it as a very long-term thing now, instead of like, I need to grow my glutes in 6 months or I'm not good enough. I need to get my abs back in 3 weeks or I'm not good enough. That's when it becomes bad. Like, why am I shaming my body for not being able to do that in such a short amount of time? Like, that's not even fair on my body. That's literally just disrespectful at that point, because I'm like, body, you need to change right now because I want you to, and if you don't change like a normal body wouldn't, then you're not good enough. Like, no, you're not going to catch me shaming my body whenever it's keeping me alive, it's keeping me healthy, it allows me to move every day, it allows me to experience laughter, happiness, sadness. This body is the one that's carried me my entire life, so why in the world would I sit there and shame it for doing something that honestly I shouldn't even be inflicting on it in the first place? Right now, my fitness goal is indeed to get my abs back. I have been on a little cut for a few weeks. I have lost probably 5 pounds. Actually, I've been on a cut for like 2 months and I've lost 5 pounds. If that doesn't show you how slowly I'm doing this so that it's not disordered for me. And that is working for me because I don't have to be obsessive with what I eat. I'm not doing a ton of cardio. I have basically devoted and promised myself that I would do this in a very sustainable and healthy way, so that not only could you guys see that you can lose weight healthily, you can gain weight healthily, you can do anything that you want in a healthy manner. It just all depends on the intention and the way that you decide to reach that destination. And this also goes with eating. The other day I was live on TikTok. I go live over there like 3 times a week, but somebody told me that I eat very low calorie foods and why do I do that? And I was like, honey, I don't eat low calorie foods. I just don't post when I eat these high calorie foods because I don't feel the need to. I don't feel the need to give context into my life or like prove that I eat quote unhealthy things, because that's not my job. And I don't need to prove to other people that I am eating these things. But I have come to a place where my relationship with food is so healthy that it's not a big moment for me if I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to take a picture of this burger that I'm eating and post it. Like, that's why I don't record what I eat in a day every day, because to me, like, they're really not that important because I eat pretty much I honestly eat differently every day, and that's just because I try to listen to the cravings of my body while still trying to fuel it properly. Eating can become disordered whenever you start to obsess over it and believe that what you're putting in your body is detrimental to your results, which at a certain point it can be. Like, I mean, when they say that abs are made in the kitchen, like, yes, your nutrition is so important, like, to the physique of your body. But again, at what cost? Like, are you willing, or is it even necessary for you to cut everything out of your life that you enjoy just for you to get a body that you think that you want, and then you're not even satisfied when you have it? Or you could keep all those things that you enjoy and just kind of eat them in moderation instead of, eating them in abundance. Eat better things for you in abundance and make sure that you still keep these things that you like and you enjoy in your life. Because that is not only what helped me get to the point of food where I'm at now, but it's also what helped me stop binge eating. And I know that's something that a lot of you guys struggle with. And I know that it's extremely hard to get out of that cycle. And it's usually because binge eating is a very all or nothing mindset, and it always was for me. And so whenever I stopped being like, okay, I'm on a strict diet, I can eat this, I can't eat this, I have to fast until this time, that's when I was finally able to stop binge eating, because I was like, if I want this, I'm going to eat it right now, so I'm not thinking about it the rest of the day. And that goes in accordance to food thoughts. If you have food thoughts 24/7, eat the thing that you are thinking about and stop letting it have that much power over your mind, because it doesn't really deserve that much power in your life. Like, you do get to decide what you let your brain dwell on and what you let your mind dwell on. So don't let that be consumed by food. That's crazy. I'm not calling you crazy. I've been there. I was there for a long time. But just know the importance, the level of importance to your thoughts and what you give your attention to. Now, something else I also talked about on my TikTok live the other day that I kind of have never talked about on here was basically existential dread, like hopelessness, kind of like this impending doom feeling. And a lot of you guys actually said that you related. So I thought that I could touch on it for a minute and just kind of let you guys into my mind and how I deal with that kind of stuff, because it's honestly kind of dark. So my entire life, I've kind of dealt with like existential, I won't say a crisis because that's very extreme. I have gone through one of those before, and I was heavily dissociated at the time, and it's something I don't wish upon anybody because it kind of felt like I wasn't real, and like my emotions were gone. I was just kind of existing, and like I kind of don't remember anything in that point of my life. But just kind of existential dread, I've kind of always had that. The fear of dying, the constant feeling that I'm about to die. I think that's also why I am such a hypochondriac, because I'm always like very hyper aware of the fact that I could die, and I'm kind of just waiting for that to happen. So the first time that I can remember even feeling this was when I was 6. I've talked about this in a previous episode before, but I was playing hide and seek with my sister and my cousins, and I remember I just stopped playing and I start sobbing, and I'm like, I am afraid to die. I like look at my sister and I'm like, I don't want to die. And she's like, girl, we're playing hide and seek. And I was like, I know, but I was just thinking like that I was hiding, and what if nobody found me and then I would die, and everybody dies. At one point, everybody has to die, and I don't want to die. And she's like, girl, like, that's crazy. And I mean, like, yeah, like it is crazy, but it's really not, because one thing is for certain, anybody that is born is going to die. That's just how it is. And I think that this, whenever I said earlier in the episode, like, don't let the fear of something take the joy out of something else. Don't let the fear of dying take the joy out of your life. Like, you only die once. I mean, you only live once, but the living is way longer than the dying, And that's how I try to think about it. And is it like cliche and naive of me to, get peace in dying because I believe in God, or I believe that there is something after this? Maybe, But if that gives me peace and that allows me to not, have a panic attack every day out of the fear of dying, because I am not afraid of death as much if I think I'm going somewhere, I mean, I think that's honestly a win. I'm not gonna know. You're not gonna know if I go somewhere after I die. None of us know. And like, that's the thing is like, none of us know. I mean, find peace in that. Find peace that nobody knows, and there's no way to know if anybody's right. But in addition to that, I think that you can reach a very nihilistic approach and be like, okay, well, if we're all gonna die and you never know when you're gonna die, there is no point to like trying to accomplish anything. And this is kind of the place where I was at the other day because, all the stuff about like I don't even know, all the stuff about like a war going to happen and all of that just freaks me out. It always has, especially because I just don't understand. I'm like, bro, we are the ones that created the societies on earth that we have, and we really chose war. Like, we could all just be living our best lives, like Barbie Fairytopia, and we're really doing war. We chose Call of Duty when we could have chose Minecraft. That baffles me. Anyways, so whenever you reach this point where you're kind of like, I feel like there's just this impending doom and I never know when something could happen, if I'm just gonna be gone, like if I'm gonna die. It kind of feels like there is no point to even living in the first place because why are you trying to create all these plans for the future, or you're working so hard towards something that you might not even get to accomplish? And trust me, bestie, I get it. I get it all the time. Like, honestly, that's kind of how I felt about school. I'm like, why am I going to go back to school, waste all this time, whenever honestly, like the whole Project 2025 thing, I'm like, bro, I might not even be here. I might be gone, okay? I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Buff Unicorn Paradise, whatever that may look like. But like, my psychiatry degree ain't going to help me there. The thing is, you don't know when that's going to happen. You don't know when you're going to be gone. So, is it really hard to get out of that mindset that everything is meaningless and everything is pointless? Let's reframe that a little bit. Instead of it being everything is pointless, or like, what's the point of doing anything if we're all going to die anyways? Let that kind of change that and make it beautiful. Like, you are going to die one day, so why not do literally whatever you want while you can? Like, YOLO, for real. You only live once, and you only die once. So, bro, if you go through your whole entire life, and I would rather at least know I did everything I wanted before I died than just wasted it waiting to die. I'm gonna do all the crazy stuff that I want to do before I fly away with my little buff unicorn wings. And you can call me naive and childish for that, but honestly, I think that's a better approach to viewing death than anything else because not only does it give me peace, but like, you don't want to be that friend that's like, bro, like, that's always talking about death. Like, that's weird and it makes any situation uncomfortable because I mean, like, I know that we're all kind of like knowing in the back of our minds that we can die at any point, but like, bro, you don't want to be that person. I used to be that person at the party. I'm like, I want to go home because like, I am afraid I'm gonna die. And everybody else is just like, girl. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm going to therapy for it, but it's not working right now. But yeah, like, just choose to view life, no matter how short or long, that's what she said, in a light that you get to choose what you do with the time that you have. And honestly, let that encourage you to live every moment more meaningfully. Don't live your life on autopilot. Would you, like, bro, if it's your last day on earth, why are you going to live that more intentionally than if you knew you had 80 years? Like, if you only had one more day left to live, you already know that you would be trying to do everything that you could. But honestly, you don't know if you even get tomorrow. Like, every day literally could be your last, so live it that way. Show up for yourself. Be kind to other people. Do the darn thing. Do what you want to do. Eat what you want to eat. Like, because at the end of the day, we are really just little specks on a rock. We're on Dwayne Johnson. We're just little like, what are they called? Atoms on Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne the Rock. Honestly, I love that. But yeah, like, just find meaning in the mundane things of life and let that create the happiness in your life. And I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, like, why is she just like yapping about being grateful for the little things in life? Besties, whenever you almost die twice in an ER, your perspective on life kind of changes. I've already talked about my near death experiences twice on here, so I'm not gonna bore you again with that. But finding meaning in the mundane things of life is important because the mundane is always happening. So if you find meaning in the mundane things, then you can always find meaning. Whether that be the sunrise that encourages you to wake up early because you get to see the beauty of a painted sky every morning and it's new every morning. Or that might be your fluffy yogurt. If that is what makes you happy, if that's the best part of your day, it doesn't matter how little or big it is. That's also what she said. If it matters to you, if it has meaning to you, then let that have meaning. Things can have meaning. Everything can have meaning. That's the thing about being humans is we put meaning on everything even if it isn't meant to be there. Sometimes things just happen and they don't have any meaning, but we're like, "Oh yeah, that definitely happened for a reason." And most of the time it didn't. But in that, let that flaw of humans serve you because at the end of the day, I'd rather find meaning in everything than be cynical and nihilistic and see the world through a gray and white and black point of view where everything means nothing and I'm miserable all the time. And I think that this is also why recently I have come to be okay with minimalism, especially in a society and like the social media age where overconsumption is so heavily pushed, you know, and just fast pace, fast fashion, all these things. Like they're telling you that you need to have more to be happy. And that's just not true. Having more things in your life is not going to make you happy. Honestly, it's going to make you broke and stressed out because now you just have a bunch of things in your house and you don't even know what to do with them. It creates more pressure on you whenever it just does not have to be that way. So, being okay with minimalism is being okay with the mundane. And I don't use mundane as a mediocre term. I use it as just a baseline. Like, it's okay to be at baseline. In my opinion, I love being at baseline because that means I feel safe. I feel comforted. I feel okay. I feel healthy. I feel safe. And minimalism has allowed me to feel more safe in my environment because your environment needs to be serving you. Do you really need 10 Stanley Cups? Do you really need 5 pairs of tennis shoes? All for running, not for anything else. 5 pairs of running shoes. Do you really need 5 of anything? Unless it's socks. Like, you do need 5 pairs of socks and underwear. But, like, do you really need all that? Do you really need all that skincare? Because I know that it's not working for you. Do you really need every single shade of a tank top or of a lipstick? Like for what? Find the one that you like and wear that. You buy clothes to wear them. I'm not a fan of fast fashion because or the fact that if you're on social media people are like, "Didn't you just wear that?" Like, "Yes, bestie." Cue the clip of Conan Gray where he's like, "I bought the shirt to wear it." Yeah. So be okay with that. Be okay with having less and finding joy in the things that you have. Because not only does this create a more grateful perspective on your end, but it also allows you to stop over consuming, which will allow you to be less anxious in the long run. And then creating happiness instead of waiting for it. I think that a lot of us do wait. And this is also why I always promote creating happiness instead of waiting for happiness. You are allowed to create your reality. In your reality, you are the only person that exists. And I know that sounds like a little like, "Alexis, what are you talking about?" But literally, you are the center of your universe. People are like, "You're not the center of the world." Honey, yes, I am. I'm the center of my world and my life experiences. This is my movie. Get out the way. You are not an extra. You're not even paid to be here. It's kind of like that Mean Girls clip, and it's like, she doesn't even go here. That's that, okay? But I am allowed to create my happiness, and I do not have to wait on it. You don't have to wait on it. You are allowed to create your reality. So create a good one. If you're the one creating it, why are you creating something that sucks? Why are you doing that? And I know that your situation right now might not allow you to, be the happiest that you could be. But create happiness in the circumstances that you have right now because you are allowed to do that. It might be something very small, like, going to get a coffee in the morning. Bestie, if that's what makes you happy, go get that darn coffee. It might be going on a walk and listening to a podcast. And if it's my podcast, hi, hello, I love you. But just create little things that make you happy because at the end of the day, life is way too short to be miserable at baseline. But yeah, I usually script my episodes, but I didn't script today's because it was kind of a big array of topics that I just wanted to talk about. Kind of just stuff that's been on my heart, honestly. I'm also recording this for YouTube, so all my friends that do not have Spotify can tune in. I'm just sitting in the bedroom right now and I'm like leaning over the bed. So if you go watch that, you might enjoy it. Anyways, I'm gonna do the best and worst parts of my week. The worst part of my week was that I didn't go to Houston because of the hurricane. I was supposed to be there until Monday, but I ended up not going. I was planning on that for a while, so I was really sad, but it's okay. And then the best part of my week was I got lip filler yesterday, you guys. Let me show you guys on the video. They look amazing. They look immaculate. I look like I have a top lip, and it's honestly amazing. I've been saving for so long to get filler for over a year, and I finally did the darn thing. And then the goal of next week. Let me see. Honestly, oh my gosh, I'm going to see Annabelle Friday. So I'm going to record the next podcast episode is going to be the one with Annabelle, which is the first guest episode ever, and we're recording it for YouTube. And I am so excited that I literally could pee myself. I mean, I probably could do that anyways, but I am so unbelievably grateful for you guys. This morning we had 543 reviews. A few weeks ago, I was asking you guys to get to 400, and you have surpassed that unbelievably. And I love you guys so much. You are so worthy of good things. Go create your happiness. Go create your baseline. I love you, and I hope you have a great week. Stay buff and bubbly.